Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I'll be covering the pairs event at the 2025 Grand Prix de France. This event was won by Miura and Kihara of Japan, and at this point, I think it's safe to say they are the gold medal favorites going into Milano. They've won 2 world championships in this cycle. Granted, both of them have been by very narrow margins. One less mistake out of Alexa and Brandon, and they would have won a second world title over Miura and Kihara. And had Hossie and Volodin not fallen out of that lift early at last year's World Championships, they would likely be the world champions right now instead of Miura and Kihara. But here we are, 2 world titles and a silver medal. They have been the most successful team in this quad, and I really feel like unless Sui and Han come out this weekend and look like their selves from 4 years ago, I think this is the team to beat. Am I super excited about this free skate that they have? No, I think it's not as good as their Adios free skate was last year, but I think it's also better material than what we've also seen from them in some of their previous free skates this Olympic cycle as well. Let's talk about the short program. They decided to keep their painted black short program from last year. They have new costumes again, so it's the 3rd costume that they've had for this particular program. Really love this program. I think it was a good choice for them to keep it. It's a good contrast between what they chose for a free skate. Favorite part of this routine is the footwork sequence. It is just so incredibly dynamic. And I think with an entire year of performing it under their belt, they're bringing even more to the table with it this particular season. In the free skate, the gladiator pieces that they're using are not some of the big bombastic gladiator music. It's also not the We Are Free music that we've heard a lot. So it's kind of a different, they're using like an opera version of it as well, which some people really don't like. Like I said, it's kind of in the middle for me. I think it works. As I'm watching it, I'm like, is this an Olympic winning free skate? For me, I don't see it creating the same moment that we got out of Sui and Han 4 years ago, or that we got from Bruno and Musso 4 years prior to that. But I think it's a good free skate for them. They skated it pretty well here. The biggest issue for them, and it was the issue with every single team here, the 3 jump combo just did not happen for any team. She stumbled coming out of the triple toe and did just single axles instead of double axles. I love that they do their second set of side-by-side jumps a little bit later in the program. I feel like a lot of teams just really rush to get all those technical elements out of the way, and it's kind of nice when some of the teams sort of save that second jump for a little bit later in the program. They have a new exit out of their group 3 lift than what they normally do. There was a little bit of a stumble coming out of it, but I think once they get that really clean and crisp, it's gonna do really well at the end of their program. In second place here was Deanna Stellato and Miura Deschamps of Canada. And unfortunately, this wasn't quite the showdown we were hoping for, at least not in the free skate. A little bit closer in the short program. Huge contrast of material for them this season. Super dramatic in the short program and subtle, I'm going to say, in the free skate. I think that this team does drama really well, and I would not have been mad at them if they had gone to that well for both programs. Let me talk about the short program first. They're skating to Carmina Burana, which is really dynamic, huge music. I'm actually surprised more ice skaters don't use it. I'm glad that they don't, because they can feel very overused, and not everybody can live up to the big music. But I can think of course, Onasine and Paisarat using this music before in ice dance, but I can't place a pair team using it off the top of my head. And it's a really dynamic ballet. If you've never seen it before, even people who don't like ballets usually really like Carmina Burana. It's usually more of a modern take. It was actually the first ballet that I ever saw when I was in college. It's a very, very interesting story that it's this balance between virtue and lust, really. I don't know how committed that Deanna and Max are to the actual story of Carmina Burrata, nor do I think that you can tell it in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. But as far as just pure drama, they're absolutely bringing it. A lot of people enjoyed it so much they thought that this should have been ahead of the Japanese pair, but there were a couple of things here that they need to improve on and that they lost some points on, even though they scored very well here. One was they were very out of sync on their side-by-side jumps, and it made it a little less impactful too, just from a composition standpoint, because it was just a little off with the music, with them being off. They were also very off sync on their spins. So they left a little point out there on GOE, but overall, really great performance. Not as successful in the free skate, and it started just right off the bat with a weird botched twist. I mean, it almost looked planned in a way, and it definitely was not. It looked like Deanna was saying in the Kiss and Cry that it was her fault, that she miscounted something on the way into it. But they obviously lost a lot of points for that, doing a single twist instead of a triple twist. They also had some issues on their combo as well. Him on the triple toe and her on the second double axel. Even with those mistakes, they had the most successful 3-jump combination in the entire competition. Like I said, with Miura and Kihara, it was just a struggle for everybody. I don't love this program. The music for me is so boring. I think that they look great. They're styled really well. I like Max's costume. I like Deanna's costume. I like her hair here. Usually she's always got her hair in a bun. Here she's got it kind of in this low ponytail, which we never see from her. The music does pick up at the end, but for me, it's just way too late. I have already kind of dozed off, and it's an interesting piece for me, and I wonder why they picked this music for their Olympic program. Of course, I loved the interview with the vampire, super dramatic. Blue Planet last year was okay. Cleopatra was okay. I feel like this might be the weakest right now. Music has to take you somewhere, but we'll see how it improves over the rest of the season. In third place here was the Hungarian Russian team, and that is Maria Pavlova and Alexei Shevchenko. He was sporting some kind of mustache last season, and this year he is clean shaven, and he just looks so much better. Just as a pair, they look a lot classier this season than what they have looked in the past. In the short program, they're skating to Earth Song by Michael Jackson, which of course is a dramatic improvement over Sex Bomb from last year. Thought that they start out with a really nice stationary like lift that you see in ice dance sometimes. I definitely have seen them do better side-by-side jumps, but overall it was a good program for them. Nice appropriate costumes. Her hair was in a bun. You could take them seriously. It's nice to see. In the free skate, they're skating to Without You. And this is the same piece of music that we saw Honk and Kukul use for 2 seasons. We've also heard this from Amber. It's really fantastic music. I find teams or single skaters benefit from skating from it most when they've had a little bit more life experience. There's a lot of emotion in this piece of music that these 2 skaters cannot bring to a program yet. But a good piece of music can help you sort of close the gap from where there have been to where they're trying to go. Biggest issue for them technically was on their combo. He fell out of the triple toe. They lost a lot of tech points on what would have been their 3-jump combo with the 2 double axels. They lost about probably 8 points there. Could have scored well over 130 points here, and they were about 5 points out from the silver medal here, which would have put them in a little bit better place to get to Grand Prix final. I think they still have a good opportunity to get there, but it's always easier with a silver medal for sure. They actually had some in-between choreography. They looked uncomfortable doing it at times, but they're making the effort, which I completely appreciate. I think as a pair, they have some of the best throws really in pair skating. I think that next quad, this could be a team to beat. I thought they might make a little bit more noise this quad than what they have. Really had some setbacks last year with some injuries. Don't know what else they really had going on. They just seemed like they were not as focused last season. This season, I think they're really sort of hoping to be a bridge for them until the next quad. In fourth place was Katie McBeath and Daniel Parkman of the US. This short program was really one of the better short programs that we have seen from them. Really love this kneeling move that they do into their triple twist. Sets them apart just a little bit from what we see the connecting steps pretty much everybody do. They actually landed their side-by-side jumps, which was great. She really gutted out the throw. I thought their lift was nice. Daniel actually gave up on the ending pose a little bit early to celebrate the fact that they had a clean skate. Two big scoring issues that they're going to want to work on. They get a level 2 on their spin and a base level on their death spiral. And usually the US teams are really the best in the world when it comes to the death spirals, but not for these two here. If they could clean a couple of things up, they could get closer to 66, 67, which I think would be a fantastic score for them. I was super happy for them to go out and skate cleanly. The free skate, they're skating to Caruso, which is great music. I think it's a really good choice for them. Really like their costumes. I liked the contrast. He's in a white top and black bottoms, and she's in a black dress with like white on the trim of her skirt. The skirt just flowed so well in the throws and in the lifts. So I just really liked their packaging here. I thought it looked really good. Their issue continues to be in the side-by-side jumps. They have ditched the side-by-side triple flip, which this time last year they were trying and it wasn't going well. So towards the end of last year, they went to a triple salchow, which is what you pretty much see everybody else do. Here, they landed the triple toes, bungled their 2 double axels as well, which there was definitely a lot of talk prior to last season that they were going to get rid of that. I wonder if that's still something that they're looking to do next quad, where we're going to see go back to just a 2 jump combo versus these 3 jump combos with the 2 double axels. But right now they're still allowed. Like I said, this competition, they went well for no one. They don't really go well for this team hardly ever, but I guess they feel like they've got to do it. And they are good individual jumpers. They do so well in practice, do well oftentimes in warm up. And then in competition, it's just like they tighten up. Something doesn't go quite right. Here, she popped the triple salchow, but again, some really nice moments in here. I thought the spiral was really pretty. The last lift is really a big wow factor. They've got the carry on the lift, multiple change of positions, and then a really cool exit out of the lift. It's a last element of their program, kind of taking a page out of what Hasi and Boliden have been doing in their last couple of programs. I thought it was good for them. They scored 178 points here, which if we were to just compare, it's not good to compare from competition to competition, but if we were to compare this to the Olympic qualifying competition, it would be just below what Nagioka and Moriguchi got to qualify that last spot for Japan, just to give a little bit of perspective. In 5th place was Audrey Shin and Balaj Naj of the US. And I felt like both of their programs were just very up and down. Better in the short program than in the free skate. Very far apart on their side-by-side jumps. I feel like Brandon and Alexa had very similar issues early on in their partnership as well, having 2 different jump techniques in their case, coming from partnerships with other people. In this case, Audrey coming from single skating to Balaj, who's had multiple different partners over the years. They landed everything, did end up with a Q on their triple toe. Likely, I'm sure that's Audrey's. Also had a low catch on their triple twist, but definitely had improved levels and improved performance over what we saw from them at the Olympic qualifier in Beijing, and they were really thrilled to get over 60 points here. The free skate, they're skating to 2 Men in Love, which is a really pretty piece of music. Again, just very up and down. She fell on the triple salchow. Their triple toe, double axel went well, but all of those jumps in that combo were called under. So severely lower scoring than what the potential of that combination could be if the jumps were fully rotated. Audrey tends to get a lot of criticism with this team because falling in the throws, issues at times with the side-by-side jumps. But I'm going to pick on Balaj here because Audrey is so much more expressive in this program especially, and he is just giving me absolutely nothing. They don't really look at each other. I feel like she makes attempts to look at him, and he really doesn't. He just comes off kind of standoffish and cold fish. And I would like to see him way more engaged in the performance than what he is doing right now. I felt like he was more invested when he was skating with Chelsea Liu than what I have seen him in any performance so far with Audrey. And maybe he's just very focused on all the elements. I don't know, but that's a big piece that is missing from this team right now, in addition to the inconsistencies with some of the technical elements that you expect to fall into place at some point. But the artistic piece is also really got to be there. So they, again, like I said, it was very up and down. Throw triple loop didn't go well. They had a really rough exit out of the death spiral. I do think that the second half of the program is a lot stronger when they can focus on the non-jump elements. Still a lot to work on with this team. In sixth place was the Kovalevs, and they had a coaching change in the offseason. They have gone to Bruno Massot, Olympic gold medalist. They're, don't forget, a two-time medalist in this event. They got a silver medal at the 2022 Grand Prix de France, and they got a bronze at the 2023, which seems very wild to think about that. But pair skating was at a very different place than it is now. Pair skating is so much healthier now than it was at the beginning of the quad. And so them getting medals at Grand Prix really kind of reflected the quality of what we were getting kind of at the time. Whereas now it's obviously much more difficult, even though they're performing at pretty much a similar level than when they got those medals. That being said, the coaching change, I think, has worked for them, at least choreographically. These are best material that they've had in this entire quad. In their short program, had a really tough fall for her on side-by-side triple toe, but I do really like this program for them. In the free skate, it was a big wipeout on the triple Salchow for Camille. She didn't even try the triple toe, but she almost ran out of room in the double toe that she did do, and tacked double toe on that for their combo. Again, really enjoy the program. Pretty much anything where there's the white stripes, I'm going to be a fan of. She had another hard fall on a throw. I feel like she's got to have a lot of bruised body parts. She does a lot of falling, sadly, with this team. The fact that they made a coaching change, does that mean that they're going to continue on after this Olympic quad? Or was this just like a latch-ditch effort to try to get to the Olympics? Because they kind of, to me, presented as a team that probably would retire after this season. But then when you look at some of the other French pair teams, which we're about to get to, I don't know that that's wise. They might need to keep the Kovalevs around if you're the French Federation. And seventh place was Bala and Bell. They were clearly inspired by Chalk and Bates. They use previous pieces of music that they have skated to in both of their programs. In the short program, they were skating to Daft Punk Within, which is the same music that Chalk and Bates used for their Alien program 4 years ago. They also used Harder, Faster, Stronger from Daft Punk as well. They could use more flow in general in their lifts across the ice. The free skate really was rough. They were using different selections of music, but they started with the piece of music that was made famous by Chalk and Bates in their snake dance. A lot of Egyptian arms were getting this season in all of the disciplines. Here we have them again. They have this long break in the middle where they're just posing. I think the break is frankly too long, but again, they were channeling Chalk and Bates, right? They had a really rough fall on one of the throws. I think it was the throw Salchow, where not only did she fall and have a hard time getting up, but then she ran into the boards. They fell out of their pair spin, which was their final element. It was rough, but they were still able to smile. They got a good cheer from the crowd, and it was actually their season's best score of the season for them. And then in last place was Wessenberg and Strackland, also of France. They are, neither one of them are French citizens. She was actually born in Boston, and he's born in Ukraine. And somehow they chose to skate for France. Their short program and the free skate too, both just kind of a little all over the place. Like they would land really nice side-by-side jumps, and then they would crash out on the throw. I thought in the short program they had great energy, even though they were a little bit slow. I felt like in the free skate, it seemed like a nice program, just a lot of up and down, mistake, okay, mistake, okay. And obviously they're a new team. They've been skating together less than a year. So we'll see if they stick together and if they continue to improve. All right. That was all 8 teams. There was 0 movement, and it was like an ice dance competition. No movement whatsoever in the ordinals at all. And it was over very quickly. Not my favorite pairs competition, but I think this one coming up in China will be a lot spicier. But first, my Pamchenko award for this week might be a surprise, but I'm going to give it to the Hungarians because they showed up looking classier with some improvements in their costuming, their choreography, and I approve. So they get my Pamchenko award this week. All right, let's talk about Cup of China because it is coming up this weekend, and this is the much anticipated debut of Sui and Han. So this was not supposed to be the case. This was supposed to be Sui with another partner. She came out of retirement, and I don't know if this was at the urging of the Chinese Federation or if she had still wanted to continue. Hong Kong, on the other hand, had retired a couple of seasons ago. Both of them had a ton of injuries in their career. At some point, obviously the Chinese Federation was not happy with the progress that Sui was making with the other partner, and Hong Kong was brought in. So by the time the Grand Prix assignments came out, it was like, oh, hello, they're coming back. It was originally thought that we would see them at the Olympic qualifier, and we did not. Instead, we got Zhang and Huang, who did lovely, won the entire event. And now the question is, what are Sui and Han going to look like? What we do know from them at this point is we do know what their music is. Their short program, they're skating to Carmen, which we saw Conti and Mashi do last season and do very well. And then their free skate is Tapestry of a Legendary Land, which is music I am not familiar with. We have seen a clip of a 3-jump side-by-side combo where she was doing 2 double axels, he was doing 2 single axels. I don't know what they're going to look like. And it's tough sometimes when teams come back because you want to kind of remember them for the way that you last saw them and the way that they rode off into the sunset, winning a home Olympics with that performance, with the quad twist. And it was just absolutely beautiful. That bridge over troubled water free skate. To come back, and if they're not at that same level, how are we going to feel about that? I don't know. I guess I won't know until I see it in a few days. So let's talk about the roster. Who's going to be here this weekend? We have 2 Chinese pair teams. They've got both Sui and Han and Zhang and Huang at this event together. We've got Meltik and Amberolava, who are coming off of a huge, ginormous score at their home challenger event just last week. Then we've got Honk and Kunkel of Germany, 3 Italian teams, Gilardi and Ambrosini, Beccari and Garisi, Conti and Mashi, and then we've got McBeath and Parkman who are going back to back. I think it will be very difficult for them to not finish 8th in this field. Pretty stacked field. The medal contenders definitely look to be Meltik and Amberolava, Conti and Mashi, and the question becomes, where are Sui and Han? Are they contending for the podium? Are they contending for the top spot on the podium? Zhang and Huang definitely have the ability to get there. The 2 Italian pairs, Gilardi and Ambrosini and Beccari and Garisi, have both been very underwhelming for me in what we have seen them this season. They're going head to head. That second Italian spot is definitely not decided. I think it's pretty safe to say Conte and Masci are getting one of those spots, but these other two teams right now, I would say Gilardi and Ambrosini, Beccari and Garisi have definitely left a lot to be desired in the one challenger that we've seen them in this season. They've got a lot of ground to make up, having missed the entirety of last year, except for the Shanghai Trophy. But if they're going to make a bounce back, this is the place to definitely start it in Honk and Kunkel. They struggle oftentimes, especially Annika, on those side-by-side triple Salchow. So this is a team that has won a Grand Prix before. They won Skate America just a couple seasons ago, but it's really, really going to live or die on those side-by-side jumps for them. And then, of course, the Georgians. It's a pretty stacked field, which I'm looking forward to because, like I said, I was a little underwhelmed by this Pierce field in Grand Prix France. Hopefully this weekend it'll make up for it. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. You can find me on all the socials at iSkate Podcast. So when I started this podcast 4 years ago, which is crazy to say, or was it 3 years ago? First year of the Olympic quad, 22, 3 years ago. I did just pairs and ice dance because my life was crazy and I didn't think I could commit to doing 4 disciplines. And then at some point later in the season, towards the end of the Grand Prix, I started doing all 4 disciplines and I've been doing that ever since. However, I have been drowning for the last several months, as you've probably noticed from just a decline in some of the number of podcasts that I have put out. And so there will be some weeks like this one when I will just cover ice dance and pairs. And the weeks that I have more time and the weeks I'm able to watch everything live, I'll do all 4 disciplines. I've always had the most opinions about ice dance and pairs, and it's not that I don't enjoy singles. I definitely do. I'll continue to watch always. I just have to be mindful of my time and my sanity. And so some weeks it might be 4 podcasts, and some weeks it might be 2. But like I said, I will be around as always. You can also send me a line at thecuttingedgepod@gmail.com. I hope that you have a great rest of your week, and let's get ready for Cup of China. Thanks, everybody.